Hello and welcome to the R Metroidvania podcast. This is Cauldrath from the R Metroidvania subreddit and Discord.
Hi, this is Master. I'm also from there.
Hi, I'm Atcero, and I'm the local Alwa's Awakening fan.
And today we're discussing not always Awakening, but always Legacy.
But the sequel!
Yes.
Yeah.
You
So
immediately went down?
yeah, there's actually an achievement for doing that.
Oh,
I did it too.
I knew that was death, so I avoided it!
Yeah, we were actually discussing on the Discord earlier today about how a lot of like some Metroidvanias will have you go left right at the start, and some will have you go right. This one kind of like you're supposed to go right, kind of, sort of, because that's the way to progress. But you can also go left to get an achievement, so it's kind of
Reminds me of
encouraging that.
Astalon.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I actually
kinda.
never got that achievement in Astalon.
Really? I
Yeah.
did.
I did. Yeah, 37% of Steam players immediately jumped into the water upon waking up.
Wow.
I did not do that on my first playthrough. I don't know why the achievement didn't pop up.
You really tried to go through the catacombs.
Yeah.
Actually, I did. I did most
I
of the
went-
catacombs without the light.
I went through a fair bit of it.
You can't get
Uh,
that far.
Until you get the key, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the key you don't need until later. You need like something to be able to jump across the gaps.
Oh,
Um,
the bubble.
the bubble or the green block.
The bibble bubble.
I got those things before I went to the catacombs.
I did too. And then I almost got Menenyorth, the belt, without the light.
Yeah. I mean, you basically get fully powered up just from one dungeon, so...
Yeah.
I don't get the lightning bolt, but I guess that isn't that important.
Lightning bolt.
Either way, you get your 3 core abilities pretty early on.
You do.
Not like they're in... It doesn't feel like you do 3 separate dungeons in order to acquire 3 different abilities.
You do
but then
not.
open
They
up the
they
world.
speed you along in this one.
Yeah.
They assumed you played the first so you know how to use them. Which that's something that made me sad is the lack of difficult puzzles with the abilities. I loved those in the first
Yeah.
game.
Even if you hadn't played the first game, this game is less challenging than that game
Oh,
in terms of
by a
platforming,
landslide.
which it's a big disappointment because this game seems to think that you have played the first game.
I think that's like the starting difficulty is higher, but then the ending difficulty is lower.
They don't do anything really with the ending dungeon.
No.
Nah.
It was not as bullshit as the first games. The first games, that was difficult for me at least. I struggled with that ending dungeon. This one it was easy. It was a breeze.
Should probably talk about the ending dungeon later.
Yeah, when we get to it.
Yeah, we can go through this as we approach it in the
The
video.
list! Environment! How's the environment in this game? Felt the same as the first one to me, I guess.
I'm a fan of a lot of the background environments.
Oh yeah.
I got just the background art, I should say.
Yeah, there's a
And
lot
I
of
think a lot of the dungeons have their own personality.
Yes.
All the areas feel relatively distinct. If we're...
Oh,
I don't know, should we talk about art when we talk about environment?
I was just gonna start talking about art.
Yeah.
Which, the art upgrade was insane. I mean, obviously they're going from NES to SNES, and they did it really, really well. Like, it is gorgeous. The character that the enemies have when you're, like, bashing them and killing them, just tiny stuff like that. Just even the birds in the background when you're walking over them, they fly away. It's just nice little touches like that.
Well, I do like a lot of the backgrounds, but I don't know, I don't really care for the, I guess the art style.
I thought
A
it
lot of
felt
the
like a
sprites have.
good sequel in terms of the art.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it feels like the logical extension of the
Cauldrath?
first game's art.
What?
But you can get up there.
Oh, what? Oh, what? That's not what you're supposed to do!
Yeah, that's why I did it.
What the?
You can green block jump everywhere.
What the fuck? I didn't know this!
You didn't watch the. You watched me play through the first game where I green blocked everywhere.
Okay, you know how
I
long ago
streamed
that
it,
was?
and I green block jumped everywhere.
I
You
didn't
were there
watch
for that.
you!
Yeah, you did. I thought you did.
This
Like on
game or
Discord.
the old game?
No, the first game.
Okay, then I probably did, but again, I have slept
The
since
tricks.
then.
The tricks are exactly the same.
I have slept since then, and with that,
Okay.
I play the game as intended, as the devs intended,
Like a loser.
like a freaking nerd, and I naturally, you know, didn't break the game because I'm a good child who does what she's told in a game.
I completely broke the progression for this dungeon. I also had an extra key at the end.
Oh, you should have used.
Uh.
Did you use that extra key in the old house?
No, I don't know
Ah.
what that means. I actually, the way that Cauldrath went in this video, which was to the left, to that room with fire walls, I skipped that door entirely and got to both sides without opening it.
Oh my god. No, there's a old house that you can get fixed up, and it has a chest in there. But to get to the chest, you need to use a key, and I never found an extra key.
Don't worry, it probably gave you 3 more orbs.
Yeah, I'd probably get or the gems, the dewdrop.
Yeah, like I didn't even bother with the chest in this one, in this area.
I didn't. It was the invincibility of the spikes.
No, the chest where you have
Extra.
to get the 3 things, like hit the 3 switches. I just hit 2 of them.
Actually, hit all
Wait,
3.
yeah, no, it gives you the invincibility of the spikes, I thought.
No,
Depends
no,
on this
that's like part of the progression. The extra
Oh.
chest gives you 3 orbs.
Oh, there's an extra chest?
Yeah,
Not
you
orbs,
hit the
it's,
3 locks.
It's the tiers.
I thought it was orbs.
No, it gives you tears.
Well, all the other ones do.
Oh, it was. Whoops.
What
I misremembered
irritated
getting it.
me was I left the dungeon normally, and then I wanted to come back to get the chest, but you can't get back into the dungeon from the exit, like the exit onto the bridge, which is frustrating.
You didn't set
'cause
a
then
teleport inside?
Well, I didn't make any of the save points teleports inside.
Oh.
So I had to go the long way around. I think at that point in the game you don't really have any tiers either. Not many.
Yeah. So this first tier chest is probably the most valuable one, and it's the one I skipped.
The spike upgrade, not sure how I feel about it.
It was a
It's-
key.
Kinda.
Yeah, it mostly kind of just feels like you can use it to cheese certain places you otherwise would
goddamn
need
right.
to use your abilities to get through.
That's what I did.
Not sure if it was really necessary. And then later on you have environmental hazards that will instantly kill you. That
I
aren't
hate.
affected by
They
the
did that in
upgrade.
the first game too. They did the same shit in the first game, and I hated it.
Yeah, but they didn't have a spike protector in the first game.
No. But in the first game, those kinds of spikes only did damage to you, and then other spikes killed you. They still had the same kind of thing.
I like when spikes just damage you, but you have the option to tank some damage and get through an area you're not supposed to. And then the spike protector kind of removes that, the ability for you to do that
No, just don't use
meaningfully.
it.
Yeah, you press the button to become invincible, so there's no need to tank spikes.
Well,
Yeah,
just don't use it. Just tech the spikes anyways. Amber is attacking my foot right now.
Oh no.
That's okay. I got layers of.
Yeah, probably would have been better if the spike protector wasn't one of the first spells you get.
I realized that must have been a teleport area. It's, I didn't really care for the teleport ability either.
It was the more generally useful of any of the abilities.
It was, and it's, yeah, I suppose I felt inconsistent to me in a lot of walls I couldn't use it on, even though it looked like I could. Seemed like there were specific spots where you could or couldn't use them.
There were some specific walls where it was restricted, but you could generally use it anywhere as long as it wasn't too far. So, what do you guys think about this boss?
I
I
don't even remember this boss. I smacked them. I didn't even get to the attacks that he was doing in this footage because he's very slow and you can just stand next to him and wail on him. And I did that and killed him in like 20 seconds.
died a few times to him. I also, oh yeah, Cauldrath, what I told Master. I had more deaths than you and Master combined.
Nice.
It was great.
Yeah, I didn't have all the deaths from the first game where I was trying to get into that water area that I wasn't supposed to.
I also killed myself a fair bit in this game.
You only had 51 or so. I had 120.
I mean, by the second
So you
half
can
of the
just
game, I stopped killing myself.
yeah, you can just go to the menu and quit to the main menu and then reload your game.
Mhm.
See, no. That's cheating.
No, that's
I
how
am
the game
not
works.
I'm more than fine showing off how many times I died. I'm a reckless gamer. I know how I work.
Well, I wasn't doing it to avoid death. I was using it to avoid backtracking.
Oh, you're
Like,
doing it that way. Gee.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
teleporting. I think I do it like twice though.
See, you technically left the first dungeon, but the reason you can't get back into the dungeon is probably because they want to force you to grab the firebolt from here and loop around.
And then you have a complete set of spells.
Yep. But it's still chapter 1. Oh yeah, I don't know what this random NPC was talking about.
He's just a
This
nerd.
secret dude. Guess we could bring it up now. This game, to me at times, felt a bit like it was obviously a Kickstarter game.
Hmm. Well,
I don't know if
it's not
that's
as
a fair
obvious as like
assessment.
Bloodstained was, where it has all the backers in the game itself, or the higher level backers.
Hmm.
Yeah, and the portraits.
Yeah. Like I don't remember there being a room where it's like, here's all the high level backers. There's one of the times I did a teleport. A
I
menu
liked how
teleport.
Infernax did it with the gravestones.
What did Infernax do again?
They had gravestones, I think.
Just like in a graveyard or
Yeah, and like a mausoleum.
everywhere?
It was great.
Yeah. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm assigning to this idea things that would be better described through other words. Maybe when I say it feels like a Kickstarter game, I mean I never really felt invested in the game.
That's what
And,
you think about Kickstarter games.
Yeah, damn.
well, no. It's that I feel like the game wants me to know that it's a game, I guess, based on the the style of writing and just characters saying weird things. I don't know. I don't think there was that much meta stuff in this game.
There wasn't.
It's not
It's
like it
not
did
like the
that.
messenger.
Yeah, I'm also. It's probably just a me thing. I'm not generally a fan of meta stuff either.
Yeah, because I personally fucking love meta stuff. If it's done well and done right, I very much enjoy it.
It's fine to have some of it, or if if you're gonna be clever and parody something, that's always fun. But sometimes it feels like games are just being meta to be quirky.
I mean, yeah, and sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. I feel it's more about execution rather than them just having it or not.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to record. Damn it.
Happens.
I'm gonna blame the cat.
Seems appropriate.
Also, Cauldrath, you got my favorite upgrade in the game, which is the block slam.
Yeah. The interesting thing is like it does so much more damage to regular
3.
enemies.
It does 3 hits of damage compared to your
Yeah,
one of the scepter.
but it doesn't do any extra damage to bosses. And then like the like the final lightning upgrade like doubles the damage against bosses for the lightning, but it doesn't make it do like as much as the block against regular enemies.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were, guess there were a few inconsistencies with this game. That sort of thing. Hmm. I need to go look at what I wrote after I finished playing this game because it was way more interesting than what I'm currently saying.
I didn't write anything. I never write anything for these games other than, yeah, I played it.
Yeah, I still need to do the Reddit post for it.
Gameplay.
Feels faster and smoother than the first game.
And I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I liked the jankiness of the first one, just because it kind of lent itself more to the puzzles that they presented. This one, it was a lot easier to choose the puzzles, which... Amber's ass just hit the microphone, I apologize. Which can be good, but I didn't personally like it. I'm still very much leaning towards Alwa's Awakening being better.
I think the upgrades work better with the way the first game is structured, and I suppose the way its movement is handled as well. I don't particularly remember how that game handled compared to this game. So
It
I
was
don't want to make
clunkier.
any statements about that.
It was clunkier, because it was NES styled, so it had to be clunkier. Because it can go on an NES cart.
Yeah, it's mostly just a slower walk speed and then didn't have all the same upgrades. So you had the block floating upgrade and the infinite height for your bubble upgrade. And then completely optionally, there was a thing that's like you can spam the lightning faster, I think it was.
Couldn't you also get 2 green blocks? Was that Alwa's Awakening?
I don't think it was. I don't know what other game it would have been.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I apologize to you guys. Amber is rubbing on my mic. My headset mic.
Yeah. Because if you could have 2 green blocks, then you'd be able to, like, space them to walk across spikes. Don't remember ever doing that.
I don't remember I didn't know how to figure out these puzzles.
I think I didn't have enough. I couldn't do this fast enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have to have the maximum bubble upgrade to do that area.
Yeah.
Oh.
This game's interesting with how it does the orb upgrades.
Yeah, the other ones, the orbs didn't feel as good.
I mean, yeah, the orbs are definitely better in this game. The orbs dealing damage to bosses was really kind of weird. But the thing with the upgrades is that they're all optional. You don't actually need them outside of some of the side activities.
It just makes it easier for you. Like, I got the float block,
Right.
the water, because had it in the first game, I very much enjoyed that mechanic. Of course I'm gonna be lazy and get it again.
Right, and that it means that the platforming is designed to be completable without any more
Yes.
advanced upgrades, which unfortunately limits the stuff they can put into the game. Like in the final dungeon in the first game, you have to take advantage of the fact that your block moves across water, or the fact that your orb will float to the ceiling, but you don't have to consider that at all with this game.
Yeah,
And
it
you can,
basically just gave you shortcuts in the final dungeon.
yeah, and you can probably, not sure, really sure what the sequence would be in this game, but between the movement tech with the block and the bubble and the optional upgrades, I think you can go most places as long as you have enough orbs to get any one of the upgrades and swap it out at the shop.
You need a good amount of orbs to get the
Yep.
max bubble upgrade, though. So
Yeah.
it was like midway through the game before I was able to get that one.
Yeah, I suppose it, this game would be more interesting. Like the activities that you do to 100% the game would be more interesting since they would require the optional abilities versus the stuff that's on the main progression path.
Yeah, there's
Though
more abilities total, and then you have to like swap out to have the right one, which can be annoying and can also be like making things interesting.
yeah, I mostly just saw activities laying around. I thought it was kind of interesting that you could change your color with the bubble,
Mm.
but I didn't see any. I don't remember seeing any activities that really took advantage of that mechanic. There's maybe one I used that on, but that's it.
Yeah, I don't think I wound up having, or I might have had to do it one in this playthrough, but in my other one there were a few more. But I think it establishes pretty well that it's like the switches match up to like the color of the switches matches up to what you have to hit them with. And so
Yeah,
it makes sense that you have to like match the colors.
it does. And it would have been cool if only this game had you actually use it. Uh, Almost all of the Switch activities were just completable without needing that upgrade.
Mhm.
I think at one point I used it to save a couple seconds in a room with switches, but other than that, I don't recall. Though I didn't attempt to 100% this game, so
No.
maybe I just missed a lot of stuff that was interesting.
Yeah, I had my first playthrough I had 98%. This one I think I had like 88% or something like that.
Oh geez, no, I had 88% of secrets. That doesn't look quite right with the number of orbs and things that I have though, so maybe those activities don't count as secrets. Or maybe if you discover the room already, it doesn't count.
Oh, it's probably the okay, so you had 88%. I had 87%. But yeah, I think it's just like whatever all the pickups are what count towards it. But the like main progression upgrades would also count. I don't know what the exact numbers are for things, but that could be why it didn't line up exactly.
I mean, there's clearly things not counting. If you just add up like looking at my completion page, because it shows you the number of the 3 different collectibles you picked up, the orbs, the petals, and the tears. I only found about 2/3 of the items.
Yeah, the collectibles, but it probably counts like getting the gems
Well,
and the
yeah,
spells.
how much of that does it count though? Those would have to be fairly high percent number.
I wouldn't be surprised if they were.
Seems odd, I guess, to me that you'd have, like you have to find 50 more things, and yet the game says you're 90% done.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I guess it just depends on whether you want people to feel good about having a high percentage, or whether they want them to feel like they are like um close to finish, or I don't know what the opposite would be, like having a more accurate assessment of how close they are to the end of it.
Maybe. How did you feel about the tiers system in this game? The tier system being the fact that you can spend consumables that you find on save points in order to turn them into warp points.
I actually enjoyed that mechanic a lot. It made
But
it feel like I had to plan where I had my teleports. However, I do hate that I couldn't use them in this dungeon or the time dungeon. That pissed me off.
Makes sense, though.
because they have special save points.
Yeah.
But the other
But
thing, like once you start, like it felt good at first, but then once you get a lot of them, the tiers start feeling kind of meaningless.
You had a lot of them? I never did. I had 18, I think, at the final.
and you had 18 extra.
No, 18 in all.
Did you still have
I think
ones
I
to
might have
use
had
on
like one or
this?
two left over, but like, I think you guys had more than me. Let me check.
Yeah, I found 26 of them, and I mean the way save points are spaced out, some of them are quite close to each other.
Yeah.
So, like I don't need to turn every one of the 6 different save points in the first dungeon into a warp point.
Yeah, you and Cauldrath had like 25, 26. I had 18. So,
Yeah, they did always make sure to give you one when you were in a place you may want to leave, like
yeah,
the save
or
point
you could
before a boss.
accidentally soft lock yourself in.
Which was nice. Yeah, I like the tier system as well. I think that it does add just a little bit of planning, and it makes the player feel that they have more agency with how they explore the world. Even though you do find a lot of them, and it isn't really necessary, especially not near the end of the game.
Yeah.
Still a nice mechanic.
Agreed.
Yeah, it would
I
have been
enjoyed
nice
it.
if there was something else you could use them with, or maybe like it starts to cost less to like unlock them, and so you don't need as many towards the end.
You mean more?
No, so that like the first ones will be more like the first ones will require, like they're more valuable naturally, so um making the later ones more valuable like in an unnatural way, like adjusting it so that they're more valuable, would compensate for that. So like you can use one tier to unlock two save points.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I am not sure if I follow your reasoning.
Yeah.
Like once you've found a lot of them, it doesn't feel very good to find one, right?
I mean,
Correct,
I
but
still
that's
enjoyed them.
That's
That's because you
because
hardly found any of them.
Exactly. So it's fine for me.
I mean, my problem was that I already had plenty of them, and there weren't enough save points to use them on that were meaningful, so I didn't use them.
Yeah. What they could have done
Yeah,
is
but
the more you went on, the more the save point would cost.
maybe the further you get in the game, but not the more save points you've unlocked.
Yeah. Or the more save points you've used them on. So let's say
Yeah,
you
that's why
get
I'm
like,
saying the exact opposite of what I think it should be.
yeah.
Like, I think the final dungeon should be like uses 4 of them, and then earlier areas use 1. But
Wait,
it's
yeah.
that's always that way. It doesn't matter how many you've used before that.
But
Yeah.
you're saying you'd want them to be more valuable as you find them naturally, so like you'd find 4 at once.
Yeah.
So then it's more useful. I don't know. I think that it's better reward to find 1 in the early game because you'll probably have in the early game you'll have a decent place to use it, whereas by the late game you have much less of a need to use them.
Right, which is why I'm saying you should do something to make the ones you find later more valuable.
Guess I'm saying that I think that there's not really much you could do to make them more valuable without just forcing you to spend 5 of them on one point.
Give me all your fucking dewdrops,
Because
bitch.
the early game is when they are most valuable,
Right, which is
so
why
that
I'm
wouldn't be
saying that we
adjusted.
should do something to make them more valuable in the late game.
Eh. I guess I personally wouldn't care either way. I wasn't using many at the end game anyways to make it worth it,
Hmm.
I was just mainly doing key teleports throughout the whole entire game, and then if I had extra, I would use them. Like,
If
Yeah,
something
that's what I
are
was doing.
if something already isn't useful to you, then increasing its price wouldn't really increase its value to you.
That's why I'm saying don't increase the price for like the same areas, but the later areas can be more expensive, just always, regardless of how many you've used.
Right, I'm saying the having warp points in the late game still isn't very valuable, and so having them be more expensive wouldn't I wouldn't feel like I was gaining value
Well, having
because
1 warp point in the final area is valuable. Having 5 warp points in the final area is not a is about as valuable as having 1.
okay, so are you also saying then that you don't want to give the player warp point tiers when they're in an area where they might actually need to use it, like in the final dungeon?
No, that's not.
Because that's what would happen if you made them cost more in the end. You'd either have to give them more if you wanted the player to be given a free warp point, or you would just have to accept the fact that the player might not have enough at this point in this dungeon and have to trek a long way back, or even get soft locked.
Well, like when you find them, it would give you more at the, like in later areas as well. So like the actual act of finding a tier would feel better because you're getting more of them, and
Okay.
then
I think
I
we're spending too much time on tiers.
I I see what I see what
it's
you
a
mean
unique
now.
aspect of the game.
You're just saying total number inflation on both ends. The gameplay is completely unchanged except for the fact that you can you can grab more points with uh, fewer things needed to find that would be found earlier in the game with activities you do in the later game.
Or you could have the points be like the cost of the points be based on the area they're in, and the amount of tiers you get when you pick up tiers be based on the number you've found. So, like, even going to earlier areas, it would still be useful for you to find tiers there. So they still feel meaningful.
Hmm. I'm not convinced this is any better than tiers, just always giving 1 and points always costing 1.
It,
But,
it,
yeah, it's an idea.
the other, like, it is, like, there is some simplicity value in the current system. Um, but this is just my suggestion for how they could possibly solve the issue of finding tiers of the late game not feeling very good.
I do not have any alternative suggestions to your suggestion.
Right.
Neat.
So, what did you two think of this boss?
Uh,
I
They
cheesed the
were-
fuck out of them.
they were really easy. I think I beat them the first try because I just waited on the top right corner.
Yeah!
Uh,
And you could bash in their head and they'll go most of the time to that one corner right across so you could drop out down the block and slam it.
Oh,
So
would
I
just,
barely
like-
moved.
I think I beat this boss without getting hit, actually.
I didn't. I died a
Because,
few times.
I did get that achievement at some point. I'm not sure which boss it was, though. But, yeah, if you just wait at the top corner, the actual attack where it moves around won't hit you. And I wasn't even trying to cheese it. I just naturally thought, well, I'm just gonna stand here because it looks safe, and then it was safe. Like, I wasn't going in with the mindset of, oh, I'm gonna do this boss dirty. I figured he would have some attacks that would actually reach over there, but he didn't.
see. You got the without getting hit achievement on Queen ID.
Oh wait, there's an achievement for each of the
There's an
bosses.
achievement for each of the bosses and an achievement
Oh,
for not getting hit with
Oh.
defeating the boss. So I just
I see.
found which ones were at the same time.
Neat. Wait, which one's Queen ID?
Well, it was obviously pretty forgettable because you beat it without getting hit.
Yeah,
Queen Idy was the giant eyeball one.
Yeah, I think
That had-
probably killed it in like 10 seconds and forgot it was a boss. Some of the bosses have very inconsistent quality, I think. A couple of them were pretty always awakening tier in that they were bad and they only had like 2 attacks. They would just do those attacks in the same order until you killed them. And then there were a couple bosses that were more interesting. Like the face guy was interesting. I'm certain one of the other bosses I liked.
I don't remember what the face guy was.
Face guy was in the time temple.
Oh yeah, I think I also beat that one without getting hit.
Yeah, it's I mean, it is better. It's an improvement from the first game, I think, the bosses, but I still don't think the bosses were very good in this game, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, something weird I just remembered with the flame pendant is that at some point some NPC tells you a hint about Boyd's farm and the fact that they remember something about a flame spirit there, but then you find the pendant in the category, like, you don't find it in Boyd's farm.
Well, it's
You
right
find it,
right above Boyd's farm.
yeah, but if you go to Boyd's farm, like, you have to get there from somewhere else.
Right.
It's not Boyd's farm. So it wasn't really helpful.
Well, it gives you an idea of the like relative location, I guess. But yeah, it's not a very good hint. Yeah, there was also an achievement for lighting all the torches.
Oh god, of course there were.
I lit almost all of them. I think there was one behind a teleport wall that I never came back to grab. So I did
So
not
I
do
lit
that.
all the torches and I'm like, oh, that was just an achievement and I already have it. So that did nothing for me.
Did you did you need the teleport to light all the torches? Or am I mistaken?
I, there is an underground area that you need something to get to. I forget what it was.
Game had a fair number of NPCs.
Hmm. Well, the first game also had a bunch of NPCs.
I think the NPCs stand out to me more in this game, but that could also
Yeah.
just be a time thing. Though I also generally didn't like how this game was written. So maybe I just remember the NPCs because I was vaguely annoyed by their dialogue the entire time. I don't think it's bad. I think it's a me thing, both the art and the writing, I guess. I don't know, I mean, would you say the writing is good in this game?
I mean, it's
It's
serviceable.
passable.
There was nothing offensive about the writing.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just being an old stick in the mud.
I like how they have a sign underwater though saying, "Hey, you should not get in the water."
Yeah, that was fun.
Kind of like in the first game, they had that one area where all it has is a sign saying like, "There's a wall above you and to the left and to the right, and then you can go down to go back."
Yeah, see, I thought the stuff like that in the first game I like better than the stuff like that in this game.
Amber, could you not?
See, the combat in this game is the enemies serve as, roadblocks in your platforming as they did in the first game. But then because the game doesn't really have much going on in terms of platforming challenges, the enemies don't feel very interesting because of that. Like, they're not used in conjunction with interesting platforming challenges.
Yeah, I feel like this game could have used like a bonus dungeon where you have to utilize all of the like high level skills.
Yeah.
Mhm. And then a lot of the enemies you can deal with just with using the wand, or even faster if you upgrade the wand, or hitting them with the block.
Mhm.
Kind of designed to momentarily stop you as you do the thing that kills them. And then you keep walking. Which is fine. It's obviously not supposed to be a combat focused game or anything.
I think it's supposed to be more combat focused than the previous game.
Yes.
That's the thing though, the combat, eh.
Kind of an Ori 2 situation where some people are like, "Yay, better combat," and some people are like, "Boo, combat."
Hmm.
Yay, more stabbing things. Let me stab
I
shit.
suppose I don't feel like the combat in this game was much, it wasn't very engaging.
Yeah.
I mean, you
But
had shield guys, you had to like jump around their shield. That's the most engaging thing. Most engaging enemy because actually those enemies would be in your way when you're platforming, and you'd have to time your jump so that you don't run into them because you need to hit them from behind. Or just hit them with your wand. The extra orb that the wand shoots just ignores the shields on those enemies, and it one-shots them. If you have
oh,
that
the
upgrade.
lightning one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I usually didn't use the lightning because the other ones were just better for platforming. And once you got the block upgrade, you can just use that for any combat situation. So, like, it was kind of better than the lightning, so I just almost never used the lightning.
The lightning, once you had the ball bounce, was pretty good against some bosses. Like,
Yeah.
it would. The first one would hit, and the ball would sometimes hit them as soon as they would, like, have their little iframes be done. It was great.
You can also use it to hit things slightly above you, which is great for some bosses.
I
Maybe
feel like,
that's probably how I killed the one boss that I killed without getting hit.
yeah, I think that the boss, like the lightning's just like specifically good against the bosses, and then for everything else, the other ones are better.
Mhm.
Like I swapped to the like lightning tree for one of the later boss fights and just like completely annihilated it after I was having issues.
So I do quite like, you just got the air dash ability. I do like how this game is structured generally with the dungeons. Usually I'm not a huge fan of the dungeon structure, but I felt like there was a good balance between thematic dungeons and exploration in the overworld. Plus a lot of these side upgrades are things you find in the overworld, like the air dash in that random tower.
Yeah, I like the air dash, but I feel like most of the other side upgrades weren't that great.
No.
They really weren't, but it's fine. I wonder why they decided to go the route they did with the spells that you find, and then also the useful upgrades being optional upgrades you assign instead of being able to find interesting things.
Yeah, that doesn't feel as good. Like, um, just not finding the permanent upgrades that'll get you to the things you wanted.
Yeah, I mean, guess one thing I did like, there aren't that many heart pieces, and they're like the least common pickup. So seeing them was still, even though it's not even though I didn't really need an extra hit point that badly, or didn't feel like I needed an extra hit point that badly. Just the fact that it's a rare pickup is kind of an incentive to try to grab it.
Yeah, I was actually the only one of us three that got three or two of them. So, or two of the upgrades, like getting 8.
Mhm. I think I think a lot of them were rewards for coming back to previous areas with like mostly just the teleportability. It seems like a lot of the collectibles are gated behind re-exploring
Yeah.
the whole map once you have the teleport.
When you have the blood-stained final upgrade.
Something a little annoying with that is that a lot of times there'll be a consumable in a little cubby. You can only reach for the teleport, but then you use your teleport, so you have to sit there for a few seconds to recharge it to get back out of the hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the recharge mechanic wasn't very good.
Well, it didn't matter if you left a room.
Yeah,
It came back every time you left a room.
yeah, but I mean, recharging was rarely ever needed for anything,
Exactly.
is the weird thing about it.
Yeah, so like those ones where it's like something trapped in a little hole, it would have been a lot better if there was a like screen transition right next to it.
Yeah. See, I liked the architect, and even like thought it was silly, kind of meta, joking,
Mhm.
and he was a unique enemy who did like the arcade game ha ha haing, and I thought it was a neat little subversion of expectations. There aren't really any other mini bosses in this game.
Did either of you wind up using the incantation of Orbis very much?
What is that?
The
That's
thing
the
that
thing that I
spawns.
just picked up that
Oh, the orb thing. Yeah, no, not
I
really.
think I've used it twice, and one of them was by accident.
yeah, it gets better the more orbs you have apparently. But so like when you first get it, it's kind of terrible, and then once it becomes good, you've got like all your spells maxed out. So it's like, do I actually care about this anymore?
Do you have to get close to enemies with the orbs to hit them?
I think they just spiral around you. So yeah.
Yeah, they're like the Bible from Symphony of the Night. Or the Wind Cross if you play at Harmony of Dissonance.
Yeah, I mean, with bosses, I mostly just. I mean, I guess I didn't keep my distance per se, but I didn't want to get in melee range most of the time, just because like with the final boss slash bosses, kind of just whack you. Uh, I didn't like the final boss, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
About as basic as Alwa's One.
The time slow was kinda neat, but the only time it's ever useful is in the dungeon you find it in.
You could probably use it in combat.
Yeah, but if you just hit something and it dies, do you really need to make them die in slow motion?
Yes, so you can style on them.
I mean, I liked this dungeon, I guess. I don't know. I thought the dungeon gimmicks were pretty basic and didn't really do anything with them. Like even, Zelda dungeons actually have you doing something a bit more involved, I guess. And then this game's version of those Zelda dungeons feels very abridged. Like the water temple, you don't have to think about how you're raising or lowering the water level. You just interact with the raised water level when you see it, and you follow the linear path until it's done. And then with the time area, you just go from point to point, and you basically just follow the linear path until it's done. There was a place where you had to use the color changing.
Yeah, it was actually mandatory there. I think it might have been.
Was it?
Like that was the only way to get down, wasn't it? So yeah, that would have been a mandatory thing. Like you had to have that as like the first place in the game that it's even useful.
That's just like in the middle of a random dungeon. That's kind of odd.
Yeah.
And that's
It's
the
just
dungeon where you can't even warp out of it. So what? What if you Huh.
it's just
Let me
a
look at.
situation that like didn't come up for us because
No, you
um
didn't need it. I just watched the replay. All that did was open up the orb.
oh okay. But yeah, you're still highly likely to have it just because it's
It's
one of
in
the
the way.
yeah. That
This
it
game has a fake skill tree.
kind of. It's basically which like it's kind of like Ori's skill tree almost exactly, where it's like you pick which one you want to have active, or maybe like two you want to have active.
I mean, overall, I thought the orb system was fine. I mean, I like having abilities that I can spec into or out of. And if you find something that's impeding your progress or you want to try skipping something, then it's nice that you can change around the ability that you currently have in order to try and overcome that obstacle.
A certain someone who will remain nameless didn't realize that you could respec.
Oh.
Wait, you can respec?
Okay,
I saw you
guess
do it earlier. I just didn't know how to do it. Do you just click
Yeah.
on it again and it gives you your points back?
so you
Did
can.
you read the menu? There's
No.
one of the buttons assigns them, one of them unassigns it, and one of them resets it.
Oh. Well, I
So
was happy with
apparently,
all my choices, so.
apparently this is not that uncommon of a issue.
But I thought I saw you respec earlier. I guess we were
I
watching.
did. Yeah, he did. I didn't, but I watched him do it.
And I know of at least one other person who did
Oh.
not know that you could respec.
It was okay. I don't know who you're talking about, but that's fine. We don't want to call
Is
him
it
out.
is it
That
a
was the idea.
person
It is a person.
who
I'm
who
not going
lives
to
in a
get it.
land down under?
I'm not going to give any more further detail.
Is it in here? Can we read it in chat?
I'm purposely being vague to not call this person out.
Well, I'm gonna call them out in my head
Okay.
when I find them. Wait, we have a search function.
I already tried searching respec. Nothing comes up.
Oh, I found it.
At least not in the game club chat.
Wait, no. That's not that one. No idea then.
Okay.
It's fine. We don't have to figure this out. It's not important.
It's important to me, Master!
He needs the
Gosh!
validation of knowing this other person made the same mistake.
Yes. So then I can make fun of him for the mistake I made. Alright, so going on our list that we've been ignoring. Bosses! How did you guys feel about the bosses? I personally feel like they didn't get much better from the last game.
We already talked about that.
We talked about some bosses, not all of the bosses.
Well,
We'll
we
talk
haven't gotten
about
to
them
those
as they
bosses
come
yet.
up.
Oh my god. Okay, music.
I like the music.
The music was good, same with the last one. I was really happy when I got into Central Alwa, and they had the same tune. That made me very happy.
Yeah, that was nice. There were some, a couple of memorable area tunes, and I'm really bad at remembering music, so if it's memorable, it's probably like means I liked it.
No, it was good. It was well done, well composed.
Yeah, it seems like Central Alwa is the one that people always say they liked, and so it was a good idea for them to bring it back.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wonder if Zoe remembered it.
Maybe.
Got a kitty in my lap.
I need to check the list.
Hey,
Oh,
this is a situation where we went to an area and I forgot to respec in back into
wait, what?
having the block.
Wait,
Mhm.
was that door fake?
Yes.
Oh! Shit! Well, fuck me running. Okay.
Oh, I missed what happened because I was pulling up the list.
There's a door in a... It just had a chest in it, but the door was fake.
Had 3 tiers. Yay, tears.
About as many as I'm shedding right now.
There's a lot of stuff in this game that you kind of just like stumble on, and that's how you get through it.
Yeah.
Like, to get here, you'd have to get the. Or wait, no. So you have to find the guy that gives you the like letter, and then he
Yeah.
tells you where to go.
Well, I actually found the woman before I found the guy.
So did I.
Found that bitch and she was like, "Oh, you don't have the proper credentials." It's like, bitch! I'm trying to save your goddamn country.
He reminds me of the mom from Goonies.
Yes! And you know, I said that in my stream because funnily enough, I watched the Goonies with friends like the day before. And I said that too.
Like how instead of saying saving your world, you say saving your country. Like this is a localized problem. Like,
Maybe it is.
Yeah, maybe it is.
maybe this wizard dude just wants to conquer the tri-state area
You
or
from
something.
Prince Evil Incorporated.
I mean, he does allude that his motives aren't as simple as like what everyone is implying,
Yeah, and
but they
it's
never
funny.
really.
I don't like when like media will just pretend that it's interesting by doing stuff like that, but then like there's nothing to it.
Yeah. Well, maybe there is something to it. It's just we don't know in this game, or maybe there's something different if we 100% it, and I only
I looked
98%.
it up. There is nothing different, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Maybe in the third game we'll finally get some insight.
What do you
Well,
think the name of the third game will be?
Alwa's closing.
Closing time.
Alwa takes a nap. Yeah, the game's story is eh.
It's there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's about as simple
You're a
as the
generic
first.
protagonist and there's a generic villain. I mean, yeah, but the first one, the second one is trying to add on to the first one, but I don't think it does it very well.
So, Master, did you appreciate this guy's puns?
What puns did he have?
He was like, "You need
Oh.
to when you face hardships, you need to buckle up, and then you go get a buckle,
Buckle up,
Yeah,
nerd.
I guess.
and then you come back and he's like has something about something being under your belt because it was a belt that you got."
I mean, I was fine with that NPC. Just a random dude who says some stuff.
Who does? The...
Skeleton below the belt.
I don't think I talked to him. Oh, Amber's phone.
Wow. How
Below
rude.
Menenyor, aka Norse belt.
Oh yeah, something weird is the heavy like the orb that fires when you shoot the wand that can break the doors that require you to hit them with the belt, but only once you have the belt. So it's like it counts as a melee attack or something. It's odd. I have to wonder if there were some shenanigans that they did with that in order to make some certain interaction happen.
Or what interaction?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what interaction it could be, but it seems odd that getting the belt would cause your spell to also break
Well,
stuff.
it probably just marks it so that things can be broken when you hit them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't. I mean, that counts as a hit, but then other things don't count as hits. No, it's still an attack that you're doing. I wonder if the block counts.
I never tried.
Were you able to slam the block into the breakable walls, do you recall?
I never did.
Yeah, I never did it either, so.
So never use the lightning on it.
How did you guys feel about this purple dungeon?
I was dumb about it. I didn't understand how to do the last part, but I was also very fucking tired. So then when I came back this next time I played, I'm like, oh, that's how I'm supposed to finish this dungeon out. Hated
See,
the boss too.
I think it was the best dungeon because you had to vaguely consider your surroundings in order to progress.
See, I hated this one because I couldn't figure out how it worked at first. Like, I had an idea, but then I kept jumping into the one-hit kill spikes that shouldn't exist in a Metroidvania, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then they teabag you.
Yeah, this thing's really finicky too. Like you
Yeah.
get this very short
Hammer.
gap where they're vulnerable.
My favorite thing in this game, though, is that the enemy crouches repeatedly after it kills you.
It teabags you,
And
yeah.
that's, like, it feels like it was something that accidentally happened, and then
Yeah.
they
And then
saw
just
it
like
and they burst out laughing and they left it in.
yeah.
And I really like that.
Also, you could use the blocks on him. Kills him so much faster.
I
was
want a
nice.
gif of that thing teabagging me.
Master Pie.
Will you make me this gif?
Yeah. Let me get raw footage from, like... Oh, I don't have raw footage.
Cauldrath, I don't remember if you sent the
I
full
streamed it. I might...
footage.
Yeah, I have it on my
Yeah, you
stream.
sent the drive.
I
But
still have the
that's
original
already
video
sped up.
files.
Whatever, we'll get it later.
I uploaded mine to the YouTube backup, so I have the video.
Neat.
I have such sharp claws. I just...
Yeah, some of the spikes, I feel like there were a couple instances of the hitboxes being weird with these insta-kill spikes, but I mean, generally it was fine. I never felt like this game was as janky as the first one,
No.
just with
think
doing general platforming.
I think the green block jumps are a bit more janky, like the midair ones. But other than that, it seems more solid.
Yeah. I remember encountering a lot of bugs in the first game, and I didn't really encounter much of anything in this game. Something more than average, I guess.
Amber, no. Okay.
Dungeons neat. The mini bosses are kind of tedious though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like these just had too much health.
Mm-hmm.
Starts
Yep.
teabagging.
Hitbox was a little strange.
It
On them
was,
at times,
yeah.
and also you can only hit them once when they're falling. So in the
That's...
one arena where it can fall for a longer period of time, it stays in the animation of it being hurt, and you can't hurt it again.
This is why I liked using the block on him, because it did so much damage.
Yeah, I never really used the block as an attack.
It was
Not
probably
much.
the best attack in the game.
Yeah. It's never happened to use it because I was usually spec'd into the bubble over the block.
I
Thing
spec'd
is, like
into both.
the first few bubble upgrades weren't that great. Like the
Yeah.
first one's completely useless except for like very specific areas.
I don't know
The
what it
third
did.
one, it's the one that changes your color.
Yeah, but what does that do?
So switches are color coded. So if you like need to get on a like if there's a blue switch on the floor, then you can duck through the bubble to turn yourself blue, and then step on a blue switch, and it
Oh.
counts.
I didn't know that was a thing.
We did talk about this earlier
Already. Yeah.
extensively.
And then the third one is like now you can turn your bubbles green. It's just like there's
I didn't even figure
really...
out how to do that either.
I think you like I didn't do it in this playthrough, but I think it was you put down a green block and then you put a bubble directly onto the green block.
That is how it works.
But the only time you would ever need that is if there was a green block switch in the ceiling.
Or if you want to turn yourself green, you want to stand on the green.
Yeah.
That would be useful.
So there was that one kid talking about the hero of time. I think you're supposed to like turn yourself green, and then then he'll give you something.
Oh, that's
What
yeah.
a
I
nerd.
didn't even think about that. At least this game seems to have, I mean, side quests like that can be more interesting than some random activity with switches. Oh yeah, I did this dungeon without the air dash. It was a
Why?
little annoying. Well, I didn't find
Wait.
the air dash until like right before the end of the game.
No, I think I was the same as you. Yeah, no, I think I did this dungeon without the air dash.
This room's a lot easier with it.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
the ID boss.
Yeah. Oh yeah. With that other room, you have to jump at like just the right time for the redirection projectile of the face to hit you, and then you need to have enough momentum to carry you over to the other side
Yeah.
and
Oh, I
land on
did.
that little block. It was actually kind of hard. I know I died several times in that room.
I tried. I did it for like 10 times, and I'm like, yeah, I'm calling it good. I did get the air dash though right before the boss because I went exploring. Because I thought I missed something, but it was just me being stupid, but then I found it, so. Ah, yeah, something happened to Saga. Time to respec! I know, I did the same thing every time I passed that area.
You did what?
Hit the wall to see if I missed something to get in.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely forgot what upgrades, like that there was the wall pass through upgrade. That is something that like I can give the game credit for, is that it's not obvious that you're going to get a wall pass through upgrade.
Well, that's because there are also places where you can break the wall, or there's just a hidden wall there.
Right. But it's better for Metroidvania upgrades when you don't predict that that's what you're going to get.
Yeah. Not to I did assume there was gonna be a teleport. Just because there were an awful lot of, especially in the library, just like weird cubbies you can't get into.
Mm.
But I mean, yeah, I agree. It's nice when it's not necessarily obvious. Which it isn't. There's plenty of room for wondering what the upgrade could be. Like, there's a few places where there's a 1 block tall passageway you can't actually walk through, and you wonder, what, am I going to get a morph ball or something to go over this? But it's actually a teleport.
Surprise, it's Bloodstained Warp.
How did Gwendolyn get in here?
I don't know.
She's a badass.
How'd you get out?
She can teleport, apparently.
Badass.
I guess it felt kind of unnecessary to have the laser walls that prevent you from teleporting. Like, it was just a way so that you don't collect every single thing on your first run through the dungeon, and then you get to the end of the dungeon and the game's like, well, you can go back to get the things that you couldn't have gotten 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, it would have been better if they like gave you an upgrade that let you go through them.
Yeah, this dungeon was definitely easier than the one in the first game.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, dodging a couple of balls, it's like barely even a platforming challenge. There's no pressure to really like dodge or do anything. You can always just sit still and wait, then just do the one thing you have to do in the room, and you've beaten the challenge, or at
Yeah,
least gone through part of it. Whereas in the first game, you had to chain your moves together and
Yep,
plan what you're going to do, then execute it, and that was a lot of the satisfaction of these abilities.
it
From
was.
that.
whereas now you like have the abilities, but all they do is like they're not required. They like let you. They actually make it easier because they let you skip sections.
You're also breaking the game.
You really have to wonder how they designed their game. Like, at what point in development did they make this dungeon? What did they assume that you had? When did they decide that they didn't, that, like, the infinite bubble would be uh, an optional upgrade, for example?
Well, they probably want to support low percent runs, so they have to make it optional for those. Also, this section, like, it seemed like the screen transition wasn't refreshing my teleport fast enough.
That's pretty weird. I never noticed that because I just fell down the
Yeah, I was like
thing.
teleporting right, and then I was holding left, jamming the teleport button, and it
Yeah.
wasn't coming out.
I think that's a bit of an oversight, huh?
Or it's just like it doesn't refresh for like a second after you do a screen transition. But that's the only place that I had any issue with it. Oh yeah, you may also notice that like every single save point I come here, I'm like, yeah, this is a warp point now because I don't care.
Yep.
There's so many of these, I will never run out.
This mini boss is really not necessary to have in the game.
Yeah, it's really repetitious, and then the final boss is the same thing again.
Yeah, I don't understand why they did that. Like all the wizards have either the same or almost the same moves.
They do. Which
And
that kind
then
of stole the fun away from the first game. Like each one had a different boss.
yeah.
And I thought that's what they were gonna do. I thought I was gonna have to go through all the bosses of the first game with this. And
Oh
then
yeah.
no.
Yeah, and these guys aren't even very they aren't very consistent with their attacks in a bad way. Like if you sit in the corner, you can randomly get trapped because they approach you with
The
the
spinny.
radial attack, and then they call in the attack from the ceiling, and
Yep.
there's no way to really get out of it.
Mhm.
Sometimes they'll start their attack that like does the rain that you have to dodge, and the first one's just on the opposite side of the room, so you just kind of take damage.
And this is the first time I used the upgraded lightning, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
that does a lot.
yeah, and then yeah, it is just easy but also tedious.
Mhm.
And then it almost kind of detracts from the final boss because you realize that the final boss is just doing the exact same stuff that you just did four
Yep.
times.
Yeah.
It's not like you. I mean, it's good design generally to introduce mechanics, like before you have the boss use them. But then this is literally just the same move set, and it's not there's nothing difficult there to figure out anyways. Bit of a baffling decision, honestly. Not sure why they included this boss. Kind of just feels like padding.
Probably supposed to be like the Mega Man bosses, like boss rush
It's not a boss rush, but they're the same boss.
It's a boss rush of one boss 4 times.
Yeah. A boss quadrilogy. How would you say that? Instead of a trilogy, it's a quadrilogy.
Yeah, I guess.
Besides, I just really want to make sure you know how to fight the boss.
It's a tetralogy.
Tetralogy, thank you. Wasn't sure if it would be quad or tetra in that case.
You could say quadrilogy and people know what you mean, but tetralogy sounds fancier.
I wonder if that's the word. It is! Holy shit. Oh! Also known as a quadrilogy. Is a compound work. Oh, it's both! Holy shit. We were both right! Nice! Also, apparently it relates to hearts.
Wow.
Tetralogy of philo? Philat? It's oh, it's where your heart's all screwed up. More you know.
So overall, how did you guys like the exploration in this game?
Not as fun as the first one. I didn't feel like there's any hidden secrets or cool things for me to do. It just felt like it existed.
Well, I think there's different levels of it. Like, some of the stuff is more challenging. Like this one that I'm trying to get here is probably one of the more challenging ones to get, and you actually have to have a lot of different upgrades to get it to work. And I even went in the wrong section here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you just did that backwards.
Yeah.
So that, I guess the challenge was you were doing it backwards.
But you also have to like time all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And you have to have the bubble max upgrade.
Yeah.
And I guess there's a lot of other areas where you need to have the green block max upgrade to like blow up the floors and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But you
I
never,
never did that
Yeah,
either.
I just skipped most of those.
Yeah, same.
but you never need any of the lightning upgrades for anything.
Oh, I needed my bubble. Because there were areas where you needed to have the max bubble, plus it was easier to do that than to try and do the awkward bubble jump.
Hmm.
I actually only ever upgraded the one to the point where it gave me the extra projectile. I never even tried the 2 other upgrades for it.
It seems like it's just straight up double damage. And because it shoots out the main bolt, which also now tracks, and the like side bolt, those both do double damage. So you can
Yeah.
get 4 damage off of a single shot.
Yeah, but they won't. If one of them hits, then it has the boss. If you're fighting a boss, has iframes, so you can
I've
only
had
do 2
instances
damage.
where, like, because the bouncing one is a little bit slower, I've had instances where, like, I hit them with the direct one, and then the other one bounced around long enough that it managed to hit them again.
Man, that was such a disappointing final boss to look at.
Oh yeah, it was worse. It was the worst.
Mhm.
It wasn't as bad, or it was worse than the first games, honestly, for a final boss.
Remember the first game had like a bad final boss, and this was worse than
Worse.
that still.
Somehow it was worse.
Yeah, did you guys like the story? Boy, you're getting to go back to your own world.
And then you don't even get to see it.
Okay. Yeah.
No, oh yeah, another weird thing is that there wasn't any music playing during that last part when you were talking to the NPCs who were like congratulating you.
Congratulations,
It was really
congratulations.
weird and awkward without any triumphant music. It's like I walk up to some random dude and he's like, thanks. And then there's just silence.
I'm just scrolling by now. There we go.
Hey, look it, it's me. Hey, look, Gary, there I am.
Was even thinking maybe the ending was like a fake out or something and there'd be an actual final boss because the trumpet music was missing. And then we got the credits.
Yeah.
That's the
Sure.
game.
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly how to feel about this game, especially compared to the first one.
It's not bad, but I don't believe it's worth the price, and I don't believe it's as good as the first.
Does some stuff, like it makes some improvements, but at the same time, it has some downgrades, I suppose.
There were some questionable decisions that could be better, could be worse. I did like that it had like the puzzle boxy dungeons, even if they weren't as extensive as some Zelda dungeons. Like, I think it's better to have some than none at all. And
I
I,
mean,
I felt like the movement was just felt way better too.
I did appreciate that dungeons were consistent with themselves, I guess. You know, each dungeon, if it's not a gimmick, they have their own thing to do,
Hmm.
generally. Or if you know, even like the catacombs, it's not really a dungeon, but it is the dark area.
Yeah, like a
Yeah,
lot of the dungeons in the first game felt kind of similar to each other.
yeah, like Zelda 1 dungeons, kinda.
Yeah, kind of like the difference between Zelda 1 dungeons and the Zelda 3 dungeons, the
Yeah,
Link to the Past.
yeah. Didn't, again, I didn't dislike the dungeons as much as I might have thought I would. I did like this game has a bit of, I suppose, a bit of non-linearity to it because of how easily you can sequence break things, because literally the upgrades that you get can function as sequence breaking,
Yeah.
which is a little weird. At what point is it still sequence breaking?
Well, the
You know?
first one had sequence breaking too. Like there was actually an achievement for beat the third boss first.
Yeah, that's a lot of that's with using tricks instead of purchasing the optional upgrade that lets you skip using this key. Like getting the block going across water, that makes, I'm pretty sure that just makes the bell useless.
The
There's
No.
like
might
2 areas
give
where
you
you
some
use a bell.
elevation.
Yeah, you can't get up there unless you spec into bubble, and you can't do that, I don't think, at that point.
So you would have to have both float block and max bubble to get across without the bell.
Yeah, it's a bitch.
Mm. Yeah.
Do we
You
want to
little
show
turd
the?
bucket.
Do we want to go on to the trailer for the next game?
Yep,
Well,
I got it up.
did we finish talking about Alwa?
Um,
We didn't say
do you
all,
have?
all of our final thoughts.
I
Oh, I thought
did.
that's what we were doing. Do you
Oh,
have any further thoughts on all this?
I mean, overall, I felt like it was kind of, uh, when I wrote my review, I said it felt kind of sloppy compared to the first game. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but didn't really feel like it had a consistent idea of what it was doing. I mean, overall, I thought it was an okay game. It's still a pretty good game. It's just a little disappointing coming from the first game.
Yeah.
I personally like this one a lot more than the first, but
Yeah. I think you're outnumbered here 2-1, so obviously Awakening's the better game. Just by
I mean,
democracy.
there are
mm,
different parts of the first game that I also dislike, so it just, those things aren't quite comparable, I guess.
ironically, Awake or Legacy might be the better starter game because it's easier.
Oh, no, 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 no. Bitches need to learn. They need to learn in the fires of the NES difficulty and dying a bunch and getting good with the jank and making the jank work for you. Otherwise, how can you be a true gamer, Cauldrath?
You can get good eventually. You don't have to get good
Nah,
immediately.
throw them in the fire.
I
Sink
feel
or
like
swim.
Legacy, it accomplishes less with what it has than Alwa did.
Which is interesting
Even-
because it's technically supposed to be on an upgraded system.
Yeah, and it's weird because the game seems to have wanted you to play the first game before playing this game. The story's kind of a continuation of that. You know, even the ending scene in the first game is the start of the second game. So, it's just a little weird that it seems like this game was designed without keeping the first game in mind for anything.
Actually, now that I think about it, the ending of the first game is the Super Nintendo graphics. How did they do that on the NES?
I wonder if they didn't have that part in the game.
Could be.
For the cartridge version, at least.
Yeah.
Alright. Ready?
Sure.
Alright, so our next club game of the month, as you could probably read, is Songbird Symphony! Woo!
Yay!
Woo!
Yay.
It looks adorable. Oh, look at him!
This is one that I haven't played too, so.
That's
Finally
a
get to
happy
play a
little
new
guy.
game.
Looks so weird? No, look at him. A little cute guy. Oh no!
So sad.
It's a cute bird.
Cute bird.
I like birds, just in general.
So apparently the bird's name is Burb.
It is Burb?
Yes.
Fuck yes.
And so it looks like it has a lot of rhythm game stuff in it.
I'm more than fine with that.
I personally am not big on rhythm games, but I am willing to play them if there's good stuff besides that.
Oh, it's so cute. It is so cute. Holy shit, it's adorable.
You say you don't play rhythm games, and yet you played Sekiro.
True. And I regret it.
How many times did you play that game?
Once. I'm never playing that game again.
Okay. For some reason I was
Even if
thinking...
it's even if you guys vote for it as a game club game, I'm not playing it.
Cauldrath shares the hatred of Sekiro that I share for La Moana.
What if Sekiro gets a mod that makes them do a Metroidvania?
Well, I still wouldn't play it. Just the game. We don't need to get into my opinions on Sekiro's gameplay in this part of the podcast.
No, that's for a Metroidvania podcast after hours.
Yeah. This is about Songbird Symphony right now, and maybe Alwa's if we want to backtrack. But yeah, this is a cute looking game. It's like under $3 if you get it on Switch or Steam right now. PS4 is like $16 because it's not on sale there. So should be a cheap pickup, and it looks adorable. Has good reviews.
Try to grab it when it's still on sale. I think the sale only lasts another week or two.
I think it's at
Should
the
be plenty of
17th.
time. Looks cute.
Any closing thoughts?
I already gave my blurb on all of this.
Yep, same. I have to go to bed, so.
Goodbye.
Nice!
Wait, which game was better?
Awakening.
Like we already discussed this.
Yeah, but we
Closing,
didn't
gotta close
say
it,
it in
gotta
an
close it.
easily snippable closer.
Okay, well, I think Legacy is better, and you guys disagree.
What if I switch my vote to neutral though?
Then
Can I
we'll
do
just
that?
be completely tied
Oh
and
my
everything will
god.
be ruined.
You gotta pick a side, master.
See, I don't like picking sides.
Well, then I'm ending the stream!
You already picked a side and now you're taking it back.
It's too late for this shit, you nerds!
Okay, Awakening was better.
Ah! Good night, everybody.